Hello, welcome to episode 5 of Highly Effective Phys Ed with Lynn and Lynn. I'm Lynn Hefele. I'm a physical education teacher at Southdown Primary in Huntington, New York. I'm also the president of Literature Enhanced Physical Education and the vice president for elementary and middle school of the Suffolk Zone, New York State, AFERD. And Lynn Burrows.
Hi, I'm Lynn Burrows. I teach elementary school in the mountains of Colorado and blog at lovepe.me.
Okay, today we wanted to start with talking about our virtual field trip. So for those of you that aren't aware of what we're doing, my class is wearing, I have a third grade class that's wearing accelerometers on their wrist, and they wear them all day long. And at the end of the day, their classroom teacher adds up all their miles, and then we plot those miles on a map going cross country. So we went to Texas first to visit Jim DeLine in Austin, Texas, and then we're heading to visit Lynn Burrows in Colorado next. Then we head to Minnesota to visit Joe McCarthy. And then we have a new person on our travels. We're going to be meeting Chris Legorwitz in Wisconsin, and then Mike Graham in Illinois, and then we're heading home. So we had to speak in front of the board, the school board, and we put together a video. And I think the video kind of explains a little bit better what we're doing, so I wanted to show that and share that with you guys today. So let's see if we can do that. Hang on, I don't see my, there it is. So I'm going to share, screen share, screen, here. Okay, and now I want to look at, is it showing up at all?
Your screen is showing up, but you're on, looks like you're on your Google page.
Okay.
Is it on? There you go. That looks like you're on the YouTube page.
Mrs. Kenny's class moves across America. 3 years ago, our physical education teacher, Mrs. Hefele, received a grant from the Suffolk Zone for accelerometers. Accelerometers measure 3D movements and distance. Mrs. Hefele wanted to use the accelerometers to motivate students in phys ed and to help meet the Common Core standards for math. Mrs. Hefele was also connecting with some very enthusiastic teachers across the country through social networking. Together with Mrs. Kenny, the idea of a cross-country road trip developed. We began by estimating and adding our miles to figure out how far we had to go and how hard we had to work and exercise to get to Texas. After the first week, we made progress, but we had only traveled as far as East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. We decided to begin wearing the bands all day. Mrs. Kenny added brain breaks to our daily routine. These short breaks from academic work allow us to get up and move. Research says that brain breaks may increase the processing and retention of new material. We also stepped up our movement during recess. Our first stop would be Austin, Texas. So during our social studies block, we began researching Texas. We learned about how the Transcontinental Railroad brought big changes and helped settle the Southwest and many parts of Texas. Before railroads, it took many months to travel across the United States, and when the first railroad was built, it only took about 8 days. We learned that the ancient Pueblo people were among the first people to live in the American Southwest, and we learned a little bit about their culture too. The Rio Grande River is a natural border between Texas and Mexico. The 3 colors of the Texas flag are red, white, and blue. The red represents bravery. The white is purity, and the blue means loyalty. The single star on the flag earned Texas its nickname, the Lone Star State. The mockingbird is the state bird. We arrived in Texas on December 4th and had a video conference with Coach DeLine's class. We asked his students questions about what they like to do in Texas so that we could send postcards to our parents describing our visit. We are heading to Colorado now to meet our new pen pals in Miss Burrows School. They live in a ski resort community and only go to school 4 days a week. After Colorado, we head to Minnesota to visit Mr. McCarthy's physical education classes, and then to Illinois to visit Mr. Graham's students. When we finally get home, we will have traveled over 5,000 miles. We might be tired, but we will definitely be smarter and more fit.
So,
That's
hi,
so cute. Oh, I'm so
impressed.
impressed.
So that was
And highly effective
why is this
physical
happening?
education with Lynn and Lynn. My name is
Hang on, I got to find you back.
That's super cute, Lynn. That is, the graphics on that were fantastic.
And I want to talk about that because I think using those kinds of videos and the clips and stuff would be great for when I start using Chromebooks and start putting video clips together for my classes. So I'm going to write a blog or post and make a file on how to do it. But there's a website, and I have it here to share, but it's called, if you Google free animations, Heather's Animations, I think it's called Heather's Animations, pops up. And
I missed that. You're kind of breaking up.
okay, I'm going to show it to you. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people will be able to use it. Can you see it?
No. Did you share your screen?
Am I there?
No.
Hang on.
Still see you. Just need your screen shared.
Okay, I pressed it, but I didn't share it. Okay. Now you can see?
I see the tunnel. There we go.
Okay, this is heathersanimations.com, and all the animations are free. She wants you to, make a donation, which you should do. But as you can see, she's got 1 million little animations in all different kinds of categories.
Oh, fantastic.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, that's a great resource. What is it called? heathersanimations.com.
Yes.
Okay.
So all I do is put together a PowerPoint and insert those just like you would a picture. And that's how all
That's super. That's great.
Yeah, it was very cool. So we talked to the board, and every page the kids said instead of me. I just made the video with my voice on it, but the children said all the pages, and it was so cute, and they did such a great job. And all their parents were there, and so it was a very, very exciting day for them. Then we met with Coach DeLine's class, and that was incredible too. We have to work out, my projection wasn't that great, so I think with you we're going to try to do it in front of the smart board. I think that might work a little bit better. And so then the other exciting thing was Joe Bailey and Crystal Gerwitz had mentioned us on their show. What they're called?
Excellent Adventure.
Yes, Excellent Adventure with Crystal and Joe. And that's actually where, I came up with the idea of doing this with you because I had watched their series. Crystal is a 5th through 8th grade teacher, and Joe is a high school teacher. So I thought we could do something for the elementary that similar to theirs. So that's how we started. But they had listened to, picked up on our virtual field trip, and Crystal got in touch with me, and so we had a hangout the other day, and it was great to meet her, and her class is going to travel out to visit us. So I think that's going to be super, and what I'm finding is, what's so exciting is we're so different. Our classes, all kids are kind of the same, at the same grade and everything, but what we're teaching and the experiences that our kids are having in their hometowns are so different. And like she teaches snowshoeing, and my children, and they go out unless it's under 10 degrees, and we can't go out if it's 32 or if anything's wet outside. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I have to stop you there because living in an environment, we have that Amtrak train that comes right by our playground, and I always think, I wonder what those people on the train think, because middle of winter, it might be, 15 degrees outside, and our kids are out there. They've all taken off their jackets and thrown them up by the door, and they're playing soccer, and they're running around, and they're playing football. For some reason, we have this funny thing where a bunch of kids vow to wear shorts all year. So, they're out there in their shorts, and our younger kids, the classroom teachers, make them put on snow pants and snow boots and do the whole thing. But when the kids get older, the school's philosophy is, here's all the information you need, here's the wind chill, here's the temperature, we're planning on you being in class for the entirety this afternoon when you come back, whether your clothes are wet or dry, and please make good choices. So they get to, it's kind of funny. I mean, to hear that your kids don't go outside. The only reason our kids don't go out is if there's lightning.
It's crazy because her kids go sledding, and it's so sad. So our kids are truly stuck in the classroom a lot of the winter without movement. So, the brain breaks that we're introducing and things that get them up and move is great, because really a lot of times I can't go outside. Bad. So that's why this road trip and meeting the kids around the country is really great for my students. Really is. So, so that's where we are. We are about 100 miles out of Austin. Still have a long way to go to get to you. But we're planning to hopefully to get there the second week in January. I'm hoping to visit you. So we'll see. Okay. And as
can I interrupt you again? Are your students wearing the what are they called? Ergometers?
Accelerometers.
Accelerometers. Are they wearing the accelerometers home, or are they just wearing them all day at school?
Just all day at school.
I might do something similar with this, because we're using pedometers.
Yes.
So I might do something similar just so we can catch up and keep pace with you on our way back.
Yeah.
Because right now they're just wearing them in PE class.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then you can see how much actual activity they get at recess and in class, and it gives them an idea, I think, of how much they move during the day and how much they need to move to get their 60 minutes and how far they're going. The difference between just phys ed and their whole day workout is kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd actually be some good research. Do you have the numbers of what their activity levels were before your classroom teacher started adding brain breaks?
I think we do. I'll have to check that first week of school and compare to the rest of the week. That would be an interesting, and I would love to send them home with them some night too to see the difference as well. So we'll see. But anyway, so I also, I've been contacted by people because of I wrote the blog for the U.S. Games, asked me to write a blog. And I don't know if I mentioned this before on online, that I'm part of the U.S. Games Presenters Network, which is a network. If you get in contact with U.S. Games and you need presenters for like a conference or staff development, U.S. Games will help you fund that. And they have people on their network. So if you contacted them and said to them, I need somebody that's really good with technology, I need somebody that's really good with the Common Core, they can connect you with somebody and help get that person there and fund them. So that's just a little sidebar. And because I'm in their network, they asked me to be a guest blogger, so I wrote about this virtual field trip. So if you want to go on their website, you can see the blog as well. So
and is that's Aaron Hart?
Yeah.
Okay. Putting all these names from Twitter and other places all together.
Yeah. And that's funny, because now that I've met Kevin Tiller in Massachusetts, and I've met Crystal, and actually I met Joe at the really early on in my Twitter adventures at the National Convention last year, but I didn't realize really who she was. And there I get a little bit of starstruck kind of thing when I meet these people, because you're seeing them on what you're considering television. So it's very funny when you get to meet them in person. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Crystal. Even when I did a hangout with her, I'm like, that's Crystal. That's Joy Fight. I saw him too. Kind of funny. But anyway. And I just got my new phone, so I'm going to try to go on Voxer too. So I got to hook up with you on Voxer.
Fantastic.
So that'll be good. All right, so you wanted to talk about your solo taxonomy?
Yeah, I do. I really want to get the word out about solo taxonomy, because I think it is, I think it's such a fantastic way of adding student responsibility. And I know with our teacher effectiveness here in Colorado, that's a big piece of our teacher effectiveness, and not for the motivation of, oh, I really want to get a great evaluation, but this is really high quality teaching. These things that come up on our teacher effectiveness, and student responsibility, of course, is huge. So solo taxonomy I did hear about through kind of a professional learning network on Voxer, and became very interested in it. And well, I think you know me, I just started like with a million questions and not getting it. And one thing about Voxer is you're listening to messages, and I'm not an auditory learner. I'm very much a visual kinesthetic learner. So it takes me a couple times when I hear things to actually understand it, or to like get it into my brain and put it with the schema of other things I know. And so that was very true with this solo taxonomy, just like getting the information and then not understanding it. So I was in contact with Adam Laveau, and he, wow, what an amazing educator, and did kind of hounded him about doing a Google Hangout on to kind of explain more what it is. And he and William Bodie and Joe Bailey also joined us for that. But William Bodie and Adam Laveau, it is amazing what they're doing in their classes. And I have that link on my website, not on my website, on my blog on lovepe.me. And they're talking about it. And the super cool thing about it is just what it allows them to do when students are taking ownership of their learning. I know that's kind of a buzzword in education right now, but the way it's set up, so I experimented with it, because I decided I could read about it and learn about it and think about it, or I could just go for it. So I just decided, well, we came back from Thanksgiving, and I decided just to go ahead and go for it. So I set up a solo taxonomy with catching because my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are all starting kind of a catching. Well, you know how your evidence outcomes are different for every grade, but you try to find units of study that are similar because if you're like me, you're just like back to back to back to back, and you need to have that same equipment out. So we're doing kind of a thematic team handball, kind of leading up into like a no dribble basketball to introduce offense and defense. But my 3rd graders are very much still at the point of just trying to be proficient catchers. And actually, after doing the solo taxonomy, realized many of my 4th and 5th graders are as well. So I just did the solo taxonomy with catching, and the way I had understood it, I'm not sure that this was the way that the authors had intended it, but the way I understood it is that students take a sticky note with their name and they place their sticky note somewhere on the taxonomy of where they believe their learning is. So in catching, the beginning level is I need some instruction to get through this. I'm not familiar with the steps. I'm not sure of the sequences. And I would say my students are not there. I mean, they've had lessons on catching, and they're familiar with it. And the next stage is unistructural, and that's where it's like surface, kind of a surface level. They know the skills, they can define them, they can list them, but they're not able to really do some analysis on it. And I really thought most of my students would put their sticky note there, but no, lo and behold, they put them all up at the majority of my students, like way overrated themselves, like kids. And so, I pulled a couple kids aside and said, cause like during the lesson I kept saying, oh, and if you're not like here, then you might need to move that sticky note. And if anything, my kids were moving their sticky notes higher. The solo taxonomy probably did not go high enough for how they were evaluating themselves. So I pulled a couple of kids aside, and I was kind of talking to them and asking them, and realized that they were very self-conscious about where their sticky note with their name on it was. So the next class asked the kids to maybe just put a symbol or maybe put their initials to try to make it a little bit more anonymous. And that was that rating was much more successful. Joe made a suggestion that, because I brought this up into that group, kind of like, what, if you guys had this situation, what would you do? And many of them start their kids all down at that pre-structural level, and then they need to do, they kind of need to explain why they're moving their sticky note up. My lesson wasn't designed to do that. My lesson, I was very much directing, kids and reminding them of all the little cues and moving kids around, and so I wasn't able to kind of position myself next to that solo taxonomy display that I had put up. And so they were kind of working over there independently, and I was like running around crazy like in the gym. And I think, reflecting back, I think I would have had a more effective lesson had I introduced it in an activity where they could have been self-supporting, and I could have positioned myself next to the it was just some butcher paper with this stuff all written on it. And I think it would have been more successful if I would have been there, and then I could have been doing kind of that question answer, asking them, so I see that you're here, why do you think you're here, and what does that mean, what would be next for you? I'm very, very intrigued with it, because I like the idea that it brings in Bloom, like Bloom's taxonomy, like kids have to analyze what's next, and they have to be able to relate certain things, and they have to be able to make predictions, and I really like that. I like that that's kind of infused in your teaching, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it with some jump roping. Some educators are already doing it with educating or with jump rope, and it seems like jump rope kind of lends itself to those levels. So I was kind of thinking maybe with the catching, I'm not sure how how much I'll get done this week, or when we come back after Christmas, adding a Google form with it, because then it would be even more private. Then the kids could like kind of self-rate privately. They could say, here's where I think I am, and here's why this is where I am, and then depending on how they answer, do a Google form that maybe has that. If they answer like this, then take them to this page, and if they answer like this, take them to that page, and kind of drive them around a little bit. And I think that private of not having their name displayed somewhere might help kind of with their a little bit more honest self-reflection. Like, I kind of think it's happening, and the sticky notes are still maybe too public for all the social stuff that happens in elementary school. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of experimenting with it, but I'd encourage anybody to go on and look at it. Pam Hook and Nicola Richards are the authors. They actually have a solo taxonomy in PE book, and what a fantastic resource. Or to check out Adam Laveau's blog post, because actually I'm going to see if I can share that. Let's just give it a try, if you don't mind.
Sounds good. I'm thinking that if I wanted to start that, I might want to start by using it in the cognitive domain, like understanding a game. Where are you in the understanding of, what it takes to play that team handball game, what it takes, more of a strategy thing, because I think kids can be a little bit more honest about where their understanding of a game. For them to understand whether or not they can do a skill is harder, I think, because they all think they can, but they can't see themselves do it. If you type a video.
I agree with that. So am I sharing this? Do you see this post? Okay, well, this is Adam's, and it's actually this entry here. So it's mradampe.com, and it's this here. And then if you're interested in watching, so that's a very, very thorough blog post. It explains it very well. And he's got video clips inserted in there. Here's the solo taxonomy Google Hangout that I was referring to. And William Bodie is a very, very interesting educator that's doing a lot. And his solo taxonomy was kind of like what you were saying, around a lot of the cognitive domain in a game, and he was doing ultimate frisbee activity, and so he's also very interesting. And his the interesting point on there was he had both. So that was part of like me kind of trying to formulate what was what, and he talked about how the skills kind of fit into that game understanding. Watch that. I feel like I'm trying to explain what they explained really well, and I'm not articulating very well. But in elementary school, it's hard to figure out, for me anyway, just how to break it down small enough. So anyway, really interesting stuff.
I find that for a lot of things, because I primarily teach K to 2, and then I have 2 third grade classes and a 4th grade class, and then I have that middle school class that someday we'll discuss. So a lot of times, especially with technology, trying to break it down and make it efficient enough and meaningful to them without taking away from class time is where I'm struggling. So, but I am thinking I'm going to a staff development on Chromebooks in February, I think. So I think I'm going to get started in February, at least with my 3rd graders using Chromebooks. So that's where I'm at. But anyway. All right, so next, did you have something else that you wanted to discuss?
Well, Colorado is doing some really interesting work, and I've mentioned before that I've gotten to be a part of that. just recently wrote a unit build out for a first grade manipulatives unit, and I think it's so interesting. I just love the way Colorado, well, I love where I live, but I also love the way our State Department is setting up and has really like provided a framework for teachers to be really successful. We're different in that we're a local controlled state, and so our state doesn't dictate anything. They just make a lot of suggestions, and then school boards can come on board or not. They can say, yeah, we're interested or we're not interested. But ultimately what happens is school districts and teachers like me that are just one of two in a district have a lot of freedom, to a lot of autonomy to really do whatever we want. So I like having the framework from the state, and the state has, so they started with standards that are similar to the national standards, and then with every grade we have evidence outcomes. In fact, I'm going to share my screen again because I want to show this. I just think this is so great, and the fact that I was able to do it was pretty cool. Okay, so can you see that?
No.
Are you looking at my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the CDE site, and they have this for every unit of academic study, and these are our standards. So here is just physical education, and you can pick a grade, and let's say I chose 4th grade. So it's pretty cool. So it goes through each of the standards, tells you like what the where we're trying to get to, what the concepts are, and then it gets pretty nitty-gritty down here. Like kids should be able to do these specific things. And then in addition, we have these inquiry questions that we can bring in some deeper thinking, how to make it relevant, and we have this for every grade. So our state started with this document and did some revising on it, and then went to this. This is again in the CDE site. And the other thing I love about it is that it's all free. And this is our curriculum. So the curriculum was built from the standards. And let's see if I couldn't get this to open last time. Let's see if I can now. I don't know that that's going to work. Anyway, the curriculum is more specific. Like it breaks all those evidence outcomes down into units, and it tells you like an estimated how long each of the units of study should be. Goes into some more depth on like the vocabulary, the academic vocabulary, the key concepts, the generalizations. Oh, here it is. Okay, so here's that same 4th grade unit that we were just looking at, and so it tells us that this unit, the health and related components of fitness, the focusing lens is fitness, again the inquiry questions and the generalizations, key skills, and this was all built from the standards. So again, a pretty cool information, and so recently the next on kind of backwards design from going from the standards to the curriculum, and now we're building these units, and so the units of study take that that sample. We did a 1st grade manipulatives unit, and kind of said, okay, if this is where we're going, then backwards design. Here's our learning experiences that would need to lead up to that. And anyway, I really think it's fantastic work. I know the units of study should be published like in the next couple months. So anyway, I think I'm such a nerd. I just think that that's really exciting work.
It looks
And
really impressive. That's really impressive. I just haven't seen anything here, anything like it, I don't think. So I'm going to follow you on your journey.
yeah, I think the thing that's really interesting for me is when it comes to anything, I'd like to have that blueprint. I hate to try to think what's for dinner tonight. I like those menu options. It's the same thing in teaching. I like to have that that kind of blueprint for all these things. If they're taught with fidelity, then they scaffold off of each other, and we're going to end up with these great movers. Ultimately, that's our goal. So I think it's set up to scaffold like that. I'm a big believer in it.
It's very nice, very nice. I like it. I like it. So, we also I'll go into my next from that. Are you finished with that
Yeah.
concept? Okay. We have a lot of freedom, and that is how I started developing my program, and I've talked about it before. Literature enhanced physical education, and so this month also I wrote a blog for PE Links for You. I write for them. I think 3 or 4 times a year they ask me to write a blog for them. So he was nice enough. He asked me, Stephen Jeffries asked me to write about literature enhanced physical education. So I'd written an article for them when I first started, and now 4 years later, what it looks like. So that blog is up there this month on PE Links for You. And I kind of wanted to show you the unit that we did this month on throwing. And a lot of people, this was the first book I wrote, Clean Up Your Backyard. And I know a lot of people use this activity, and that's why I wrote that book first. It's a throwing and throwing for accuracy. And a lot of people use that game, Messy Backyard or Messy Bedroom. And this is how I implemented it and made it into the story. So I want to share you the little video that I made for it, and then talk about it with you. Let's see if I can find it. Let's go here. Let's go. Hang on. Actually, I don't think I have it up here. So when I wrote this story, I made too many copies, and so now
Literature enhanced physical education.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I wrote this story, it was my first one, and I wasn't very smart in publishing it. And then so I purchased too many books, and now when I change all the lessons, because I've gotten my lessons much better now, I have to add them in on the side. And I want to talk about how changing the lessons is important. So, but watch this first.
Presents Clean Up Your Backyard. There once was a family named Tall who lived in a very nice house with a very big yard on a quiet little street. There was also a family named Small who lived in a very nice house with a very big yard on the same quiet little street. In fact, the Talls and the Smalls were neighbors. Now, although the Talls and the Smalls were both very nice families living in very nice houses on a very nice street, they both had one very bad habit. They were slobs. Neither the Talls nor the Smalls ever threw anything away. If they didn't need something anymore, they simply tossed it into the backyard. And so begins the story of the Small and the Tall children in this whimsical story about two families making the most of a miserable chore by turning it into a fun-filled throwing game. This physical education teacher resource contains a story with visual and verbal cues for overhand throwing and throwing for accuracy. Also included are 3 lesson plans that mirror the story, utilize independent learning stations, and provide for differentiation of learning through the use of creative equipment. Finally, use the rubric provided to assess overhand throwing using an authentic assessment in which every child is in continuous motion. Clean Up Your Backyard and other literature-enhanced physical education resources can be found at www.leapincorporated.com, amazon.com, and in PDF ebook format at lulu.com.
Are you there?
Yes.
So I wrote that story, right? And I sent it off to where I went to college, Springfield College, and a professor to look at. And when he came back and he wrote me, one of the comments he said was, in that activity that everybody uses, the kids are so frenzied that they're not learning. And I had to think about that because the way I used to teach it and the way I see a lot of people teach it, they are frenzied, and I love that because they're really moving 100% all the time, but they're not always concentrating on their throwing. And I think when we do a lot of these activities that we love to do, because I always like every kid moving, we have to make sure that they're focusing on the skill that we're trying to teach them as well as moving. So one of the things I did to combat that was to make independent learning stations where students will, as I'm watching the students throw, and I'm looking for who's where on the rubric, because you can even have a first grader that's throwing in opposition fluently at a 4. I know my boys did when they were in first grade. So I'm looking for the kids that need help, and if they need help, I can send them to independent learning stations, which are essentially footprints on the floor with tape that start them facing with their hip to the target, and then when they step with the opposite, they step on a piece of tape that turns their foot towards the target. So I can send kids to focus and work at those stations that need help, and I don't have to be stopping each and every kid from moving. So I just wanted to make sure that, through this example of this one lesson, that when you're teaching something, all you people out there that might be watching, that it's not just good enough for kids to be moving. They have to be moving with the purpose that you're intending and not just rushing to do whatever game it is that we're playing to win. Does that make sense?
Oh, Lynn, Hefele, I so like you. I am in complete agreement. I'm so glad you brought that up because, I could climb up on I could climb up on my stool right now and use it as a preacher's box. Right. Let's not just do activity for activity's sake. And I completely agree with a lot of times when we have kids in activity and the skill breaks down, then we as teachers have to think, well, what's next? What do I do to because yes, it's great that we're keeping the kids super active when we don't want to. I don't think it should be skill and drill, every single second because that's a bummer too. It's walking that fine balance line of, yes, we're going to be learning, and yes, there's going to be it's going to be skill related, and we're going to do some drills, but we're also going to have a lot of fun doing it. And I'm really glad you bring that up because I completely agree.
Thank you. I definitely have made that part of how I teach now. I'm going to always have every kid moving, but I let them know that at any point I could be watching and assessing you, and if you're not focusing on the skill as well as, if we need to do it quickly, because you don't always need to do things quickly, but if you're moving, you need to move with purpose. And then we say that over and over again in our class. How do we move? And they chant back with purpose. Not just moving. And then you're right, and balance is the big word. Now when I present, like when I present at the Southern District in February, that's the name of my presentation, Balancing Physical Activity, Physical Education, and the Common Core. Because I think we can do all of them, and I think we can do all of them well, but it is a balance.
Yeah, and it requires, to do all of them and to do all of them well requires a lot of work on our part. We have to be super purposeful in in what we plan and super purposeful in not only in our planning, but what we're saying and what we're kind of in. I like to think of all that stuff as infused into activity. Because, oh my gosh, my kids so want to move. They're dying to move. They're so excited. They just want to go, go, go. And I don't want to not have them do that. But while they're so motivated to move and they're so motivated to go, I like to infuse that other stuff. I was just talking about this with a friend, like pretty much in any tag activity, I just love tag activities, and pretty much in any kind of tag activity, they're so highly motivated to get back in the game that I like using that high motivation for those entrance tasks. Okay, well, to get back in, you need to, and add some sort of cognitive skill in there. You need to tell me the 5 components of health-related fitness. I know that's like the simple example, but they're so motivated to go back in the tag game that if they don't know it the first time we do that activity, they know it forevermore, because they don't want to be like researching that on the bulletin board while everybody else is playing.
Yeah, that's terrific. I like that too. I like to always have a purposeful moment, in like that tag game, or when they first come into class, or when they exit, or when we're sitting in line. No wasted time. I do feel like people just sit back and watch sometimes because they're in activity. And I don't think that's good enough. I think that's like a teacher saying, go read this book, and not checking for understanding, like comprehension, and you have to do those things.
Yeah, I that's one reason why. So I have this vision of like having my kids be in PE, and they're doing their lesson, and I'm like teaching their lesson, or we're doing an activity. And you know how you were saying when you see somebody who's not, say it's an overhand throwing like in your book there, and you see somebody not doing it correctly, and then you work with them and you send them over to an independent learning station. Well, I would love those independent learning stations to somehow include a resource where they can watch some video. And I can't imagine that PE teachers all over the country are all creating their own videos. I mean, maybe, because there's some unbelievable people out there who are so industrious. I'm absolutely amazed at what all they get done. But I would love to have those independent learning stations, like a video sequence maybe, where when they're not getting something, they can go back to step 1, where you say, oh, well, you're not stepping in opposition. Here's like a little kind of step-by-step video thing I want you to go through. And then, oh, well, you're stepping in opposition, but I noticed you're not keeping your elbow up. So you're going to go through this little video sequence. I would love to have that, because I think, especially being such a visual learner myself, that's what I would gain the most from. So I think a lot of kids are probably like me.
I hear what you're saying, and I think I might start heading in that direction. With those, you see how I could put those little video clips together. Whether it's with a book or a virtual field trip, is to start making little video clips like that, and voicing over them like I'm doing, and also having the words pop up. As the elbow comes forward with a little arrow pointing for them. And you're right, it's going to take a lot of time, but once you do them, you're done for forever, and you can put them out there for the universe.
Yeah, I wish you would get on that and then share it with me.
I just have to, when my kids were little, I could have put my kids in it, but you can't just choose one of your kids from school, because, I can't anyways. And I don't want to necessarily be me, the one being in all the videos. So I'll have to figure it out, but I'm definitely going to head down that track. On my website, I have a video page where I've scoured YouTube and found videos that I feel are elementary, for each skill. So I might use some of those and just kind of adapt them to make it to start, and put QR codes with them for people that come to the website. But if you go to my website and go to the video page, I have a lot of that kind of video.
Well, that's good to know. I know that Mike Graham and I discussed this, and we tried to kind of crowdsource it. Like, hey, let's all do some videos of our kids, and he created this great library spin, and then I think each of us ran into our own stumbling block, whether it was getting the permission from the students to post them and share them online, or whether it was deciding what skills videotaped were going to be the best learning centers. I don't know. And I take full responsibility of that. We just kind of put it on hold for a while because I think we're all so busy. But I feel like somebody's already got it and doing it out there. So if you're watching this and you've got it, share it with me.
And me. That said, I think we've gone for about an hour here.
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry to anybody who's watching.
All right, so you got anything else you want to add?
No, please make me stop.
Me too. I could talk forever about all this stuff. I just love talking with like-minded people, so it's great. Anyway, so until next time.
Until next time.
Happy holidays.
You too.
See you next month. Bye.